Welcome to Built, Trusted, Chosen, the podcast for leaders and marketers in trades and construction, hosted by Wes Towers from Uplift 360.
Okay, hi there, Erica. It's good to have you on the show today, Built, Trusted, Chosen. If you'd like to just introduce yourself real quick, we'll unpack it, of course, as we go along, but just tell the audience who you are and what you're up to these days.
Well, thank you so much, Wes, for inviting me to participate in your show. I'm super excited to be here and share what I've done over my career with you and your audience. I am a remodeling designer just based west of Denver, Colorado in the US. And we focus on remodeling design for residential projects mostly. And we do everything from simple projects all the way up to whole home design.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'm sure the audience will get a lot of value out of it. Obviously, our audience is trades and construction. So your interior design flair is something that I'm sure that they'll appreciate. So what do you see the biggest challenges with the work that you do in the construction industries? Are there certain issues that sort of arise, common problems that arise when you're collaborating and so on?
You know, that's such a good question. I'm like, do I only get to choose one? And
We can go over all of them.
right. But I'm sure it's like most of the general contractors and people
Yeah,
listening, right? It's
yeah,
coordinating the subs. It's what do you do when life throws you a curveball with either one of your subs or your clients? It's more of that management in three-dimensional that I mean, I do it and I do it really well, but I would say that's a huge challenge just in keeping the project on track as well as communicating that to the client.
yeah. It's always about people, isn't it? The communication and obviously the end client. They're potentially building their dream home or whatever it is, and they're so invested in the process. Even if it's a commercial building and people are invested
Yeah,
in
yeah.
what it is. So, they want it to look and feel right. And sometimes when there's so many moving pieces in people involved, things can go wrong and often do. But process is so important. So I was really curious for you to unpack. You've got a 6-step design process. Is that right? I was really curious how that all works.
Yes, excuse me. So quite a few years ago, I realized that the process that we as interior designers, as general contractors, what have you, really remains the same. However, it's differently applied for each particular project and client. In order to convey what I do and help people understand really truly how simple it is, simple but complex, to go through the whole design process, I did come up with a 6-step design process. Steps 1 and 2 are like the consultation and the paperwork. Steps 3 and 4 are measuring the space and doing some concepts. 5 and 6 are, budgeting. How much do you want to invest? Where do we scale the material selection in order to achieve the client's budgetary goals? And then the final step is ordering all the product and getting it to the job site. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, perfect.
yeah, yeah.
I love it when creative people like yourself have really solid structures and process as well. So
Mhm.
oftentimes with creatives, I'm a creative as well, run a digital agency. So sometimes we can be a little, sporadic, but to have a solid process and, that's obviously super important when you're dealing with a large scale project as well.
Yes,
Um,
I will say that my creative team right now, as well as my financial team, um, we're coming up on my 16th anniversary being in business, right? And 22 years overall in the construction industry and trades and design and things like that. And I was like all like fired up for my team, and I was like, yeah, I have things organized. And then they're like, well, what about this or what about that or what about this? And so I appreciate the kudos. And then at the same time, I'm like, oof, I got a lot more to do.
yeah, it always feels like that, doesn't it? There's always things done well and things to be done and improvements, enhancements and so on. And To have a solid team, that's fantastic. So how many people involved in your team, did you say?
So I don't have any employees. Everybody is a subcontractor, but I have
Yep.
three financial people and three creative marketing people. And we had some turnover. We Yes, collectively had some turnover at the end of last year. So I feel really solid and firm in the team who I have who are freaking brilliant. We had a website rebuild meeting yesterday and I was like, "Wait, you're going to do what?" And it was so fun to hear the
Yeah.
creative team just riff on what we could do, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just going to sit back here and let you be brilliant on your own." So,
Yeah. Well, that's the key to success in anything. If you can hire people that you trust in certain fields, that they're aligned with what you want to achieve, and you know that they understand what you're trying to do, so that you can just delegate tasks and know that the best outcomes will be achieved, and then you can concentrate on the things that you do best.
mhm.
With your
You know, that
Yeah,
that I'm sorry to interrupt, but that absolutely is the essence of what I do in my firm in order to achieve a successful remodel. We take all the ideas from the client, we download that, we put it into a mood board. We then start looking at the site, really looking at the site. From external walls on in, what do they want, and pairing that up, and then having that client allow me and my team to go and do the work to achieve their goal. It's the same thing when you really let people do the work that they've been called to do. It's amazing what can happen.
yeah. And so with that creative process, how much of the design sort of preferences are communicated to you ahead of time, or how many are sort of giving you an open slate to work from?
Oh, so when I go into a home for a design consultation, I do not want to see any ideas. I do not want to see any other designers who may have come in. I want to literally sit down at the kitchen table with the homeowners and talk about how they use their space, what their storage is like. And then we start brainstorming in real time. Like if we push this wall back, or if we slide this appliance over, or if we had a storage cabinet here, how would that improve the work and the flow and things like that? Once we
Yeah.
get that basic agreement, then yeah, the clients are absolutely welcome to inundate my Dropbox folder that I share with them with ideas and things like that. And then
Yeah.
we start big and we start narrowing it all down.
Yeah, got it, got it. And so has AI impacted the way in which you work and the creative flows of how you do things?
You know, uh, Last year I would have said, "Absolutely not. Like, we're not doing
Okay.
AI." And
Yeah.
then I started, really investigating what can be done. And I actually love it when clients take a picture of, let's say, their kitchen or their bathroom and, put it into whichever preferred AI dialogue you have and say, "Hey, what could this look like?" Because that will actually help my clients' mind open to new possibilities.
Yeah.
Whether they're changing locations of, let's say, in a bathroom, maybe we're moving the tub and the vanity, or maybe we're stealing a part of a closet in order to put a water closet in. Anything that my clients can do in order to see more possibilities, I'm all over. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure most of your listeners can relate to this, but shoot, how many projects do we do per year or over the course of our lifetime, right?
Yeah.
Our clients typically only do one, maybe two projects like this in their entire lifetime. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's how I use AI.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So the experience that you've got over the many years, you know what kind of works and what doesn't. So
Hmm.
sometimes it's wading through some of the ideas that people might have that just won't work, but communicating what
Hmm.
might work as an alternative solution. And working with the construction people, the builders, how do you find that process? do you how do you connect with them? Um,
Uh, yeah,
make sure everything's
so
aligned. Yeah.
yeah. So I tend to operate as a very collaborative designer. I don't have all the answers. I might have come up with a plan, I really approach projects as here's the plan, here's the materials. Let's work together in order to get the project done. So starting with the demo and communicating what needs to be removed, what needs to stay, communicating with the electrician what we're where we're going to place receptacles and appliances coming up, and really making sure that there's an open line of communication so that we all eventually end up at the same place.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's sometimes I was talking to a guy in construction where things could often be interpreted. So there's thorough plans and instruction and so on, but sometimes people interpret the intention a little differently, so to speak. And so, um, does that kind of happen a little bit in your world? And how do you go about those adjustments that might have to occur if something's not quite how it?
That, I love how you asked that question. That was so precious. But, there are times when I have visited a job site and I'm like, "Oh, that is an interesting interpretation of the plans, which clearly say this, but let's talk about how you got to where you're at, what you were thinking. Did you run into, some structural piece? Could you not go through a sill plate for the plumbing or any number of issues could have impacted that particular trade's decision to look at the plans and then choose to do something different. And then we brainstorm it out and we adapt. Sometimes I can change the cabinetry, sometimes I can't, but there's always fillers that we can order. Just saying, always
Yeah.
a fix to something, right?
Yeah, you've got to think on the fly a little bit sometimes and figure out, okay, this is what's
Yeah.
happened and what's the way forward. So everybody's happy. It's part of the creative and the technical merging that
Mhm.
sometimes as well, the practical and pragmatic. I mean, I remember when mum and dad built a home, um, and it was architecturally designed. So the builders working on it, they were complaining because it was more complicated than what they felt it needed to be. And they were saying, if it was just square, it'd just be so much easier for us to build. We would have finished the project now, but you've got this curved wall through the house. It's causing
Right.
us trouble, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sometimes you get those arguments, but they're outcomes when people understand what they're working towards. I think they were pretty impressed by the build in their finish. It's just
Mhm.
it made it more tricky for them in the process. Do you see that sometimes? Is there sometimes, um, I guess, frustrations or even red flags ahead of time that you think, okay, maybe this isn't a great client or collaboration or
Mhm.
things aren't working? Is it like a gut feel? How do you go about those things? Because not everyone's a good fit collaboratively.
Oh, no, not everybody is a good fit, collaboratively. I mean, there are I'm thinking of several subs that I'm like, "Nope, not working with that person." And what it really comes down to are 2 things: communication and ego, right? And if there's a lack of communication or poor communication, or if the communication I provide is received rough or gruff or what have you, that's
Yeah.
kind of a red flag. And then also ego, like I need to be right all the time. Well, I know I'm not right all the time. Goodness, I learn new things every single day, right? But being in a place to say, wow, thanks for sharing. Let's figure it out. For instance, a great example are the electrical changes in how many outlets do you need in an island over the past even 5 years, right? Before it was 48 inches or more, you needed 2 outlets on either end. Great, I could plan for that. Well, then it got really complicated and it was some algebra formula that I had to calculate out, and now it's really easy. There's no outlets. And working with the expectations code and the technical requirements, I would just say that those are 2 things that really I'm aware of.
Yeah. All those compliance issues obviously need to be ticked off, but then you've also got the constraints of budget. I'm sure for the most part, people are restrained to some degree with budget, so they wanting to achieve a certain something, but you've got to be smart about how you get as close to that as possible. Um, I guess that comes with years of experience and knowing how to create a great outcome with a limitation and
Mhm.
constraints.
So I look at my job not as necessarily design or construction, but it's really hospitality. When you really break down your job to think about what work are you really in, it's all about the hospitality of taking care of your clients and your subs so that you can anticipate their questions, you can anticipate their concerns, you can anticipate answering budget questions, so you're not fumbling or awkward about it. And yeah, you're right. It's just a lot of years of practice, just a lot of years of practice. So
Yeah, yeah, just understanding all the different ways in which you can, yeah, communicate. It's kind of like a life coaching sort of sort of
You
scenario
know,
just walking
so
through.
so that's
Yeah.
super funny because I when working with let's say a couple, right? Usually one person can see the final design like straight away, they got it. And the other person's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." One person can totally see the budget, the other person's like, "I don't know what you're talking about," right? So I often say that I don't do remodeling, I do marriage counseling, and I happen to use remodeling as the method to do the counseling.
Yeah, yeah. I could see that. It certainly, yeah, that's often the way it seems partners often are quite the polar opposites of each other, which is good. That's what attracts people to other people. But the tension in that as well. Not someone's just wanting a square box and someone else is wanting something quite beautiful. So um, it's interesting. And so building the trust, so the people thing. So this shows built, trusted, chosen. We like to speak about trust. So that trust in the human experience and that building that understanding, so powerful. What things can erode trust in your industry? Do you think that sometimes it goes horribly wrong?
Um People not doing what they say they're going to do. Um, I was on a huge project that I was managing. We got 3/4 of the way through, and I was just cleaning up paperwork, insurance and copies of licenses and everything like that. And I found out my electricians were not licensed. Whoops. And yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god." And that really had the potential to erode that trust. However, the way I approached it, the way I dealt with it, the way I communicated it to the client, the solution I came up with, as well as to firmly file a complaint. Our electricians are licensed by state in the U.S. I'm not sure how it is where you are, but then filed a complaint with them. Like it was really how the professionalism behind it and crossing your T's and dotting your I's. But yeah, that that was a shocker. Just saying. So.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. And so that's just the nature of doing anything, building anything, creating anything. Sometimes things just go wrong that you just don't foresee, but the way in which you deal with those challenging times, even though things are a bit rocky at the moment, going through those horrible times, sometimes when you come out the other side and you've dealt with it in a positive
Mm.
way, it just builds more
Right.
reputation and trust because they know stuck at it and found a solution. I think that's so powerful. We as humans make mistakes, and sometimes it's the way in which we correct course that makes all the difference in the
Yeah,
trust.
I would
Trust.
I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you're working with your marketing team at the moment. So are you sort of shifting anything or just solidifying what you're already doing?
So we're in the middle of a complete website rebuild to align the messaging with where I want to go for this year, as well as build my company here in the Denver metro area. Prior to me living in the city, if you will, I was up in the mountains of Winter Park, Colorado, where Winter Park Ski Resort is, and I was up there for about 18 years. And now I am just really figuring out that ideal client for me, changing a little bit of the messaging. And so we should have a new website launched, I'm thinking by the end of March, based on their timelines that they gave me yesterday, which will be
Yeah.
so exciting. We've got some really fun lead magnets and like measuring guides and love your home guides that I will definitely keep your listeners attuned to.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. So changing locations because typically for trades, construction, interior design, it's you have a local network and market and so on. So building that all out again with other people, you've done it before, so you know what you're doing. So we're just establishing all that again. It's kind of fun, I suppose, because you can set out in a new path, knowing a whole bunch of things that you might have done slightly differently the first time you kind of started. So almost starting again to some degree. Yeah.
I would definitely agree with that. You know, I've when anybody starts a business, at the bottom line, they have no idea what they're doing, right? They may know their trade exceptionally well, right? But you don't know the ins and outs and the whatevers and the I don't know, everything from the anxiety to the celebration to the fear to whatever. This time, and you're absolutely right. You know, I am really looking at, who do I serve exceptionally well? What kind of projects do I really enjoy doing? And that first one, I really work with homes up to about a $2 million value, and it's usually a whole home remodel. And we are diving in and evaluating the flow. How does it match your client's lifestyle? And then, you know, some of those older homes, 15 years at the minimum is typically where we start remodeling, which I'm like, wait a minute, that was at the beginning of my career. That's crazy. And it is just it is starting the business again, but n- I can I know my craft. I know who I serve, and it's making that website now align with those two
Mm.
things.
Yeah. It's so important, and there's always adjustments. I've found every year I've slightly tweaked and adjusted the path. You kind of have an end goal in mind, but new opportunities arise, and you find things that you're really enjoying, so you pursue them a little more, and things that you don't sort of fit well with you, so you sort of leave them behind. It's always a matter of adjusting, correcting course, making improvements, enhancements. I love that in business. There's always something new on the horizon. What do you think the big trends might be in interior design? I mean, tech. We touched on the AI before, but it feels as though every industry is evolving and changing, and sometimes threatened by AI, but sometimes technology can improve and enhance things as well.
Yeah.
Do you think the trends are moving?
So what I'm seeing for trends in the interior space, whole home connectivity is an absolute must anymore. I work a lot with second homeowners or vacation homeowners, and they want to be able to know that if there's a water leak underneath a sink or a vanity, they want to know where their temperature is at their house. One of the last clients I worked with, they wanted to be able to set their temperature in their home before they got there. So really keeping tabs on their home when the property managers are becoming fewer and farther between, so that owners have that control. I have a friend of mine who travels quite extensively, and he can absolutely control his whole home from anywhere in the world, which I'm like, that's really cool. And that's really creepy at the same time. Um,
Yeah.
the other trend I'm really seeing in interior design is more of a trend towards softer goods, a more lived in experience, not necessarily the white shaker doors and the super modern countertops anymore. People want to feel comfortable and cozy and warm in their home. And so there might be a room that's a deeper accent color. I'm seeing a lot of natural fibers. I'm seeing a lot of just pretty lighting and displays. And, if it is a clean line with a cabinet, well, then maybe we're looking at white oak um, or even some of the really pretty laminates that are out there, instead of all the super fancy or the super modern.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting with you mentioned the tech piece. I was talking to someone who runs Airbnbs and sets them up and manages them and a whole bunch of stuff. I hope to get them on the show because they were really interesting. But they were talking about some of the sensors and so on that people are having in their homes. Not cameras and so on, but heat detectors, so they can tell if someone's heat blaring whilst the home when they move it, leave their premises, or the water detectors. So if someone's left a tap on and there's a flood and
Mhm.
no one's in property for a length of time. So pretty clever the way they're doing it. But then also the design and because Airbnbs and B&Bs in general probably
Right.
taking care of us as well as
Mhm.
your own home. So creating it so it looks beautiful, but is pretty robust and can withstand a
Yes.
little bit of abuse. It's
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
I think designing with the intended user is so important. And I suppose when you're designing, you've got to consider like the homes, but also if people have young kids, I suppose that's a thing. They're you need things designed fit for purpose. Everyone's unique
Right.
circumstances
Right.
play into it. Yeah, yeah, really interesting.
Mhm.
The we've covered a lot. So with the chosen piece, what do you think it is that um, a client looks at, a potential client looks at when they're choosing an interior designer?
One thing I think is really important is relatability. Um, there's general contractors across the spectrum. There's interior designers across the spectrum, and I, the clients I get, or that I earn, I'm very relatable. I, talk the talk. I do the things I think I'm going to do. I'm pretty down to earth as far as reality versus their investment they want to make. And I think that has a huge part, no matter if it's me or a different designer. But if you can relate to that person and that person can actually achieve your goals, that is super key. The second thing would be, do you actually have the experience to do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah,
I now I do. It's always a challenge. Yeah, I think those two things by far, and then also looking at the designer's portfolio to see if their design style, if their attention to detail really matches your end goal
mm,
as a client. So
yeah,
those would be the three things that I would say.
yeah. Absolutely. I've got a few clients. We're a digital agency, so we design the websites and so on for clients. And a couple of the builders I've noticed they promote their collaboration partner in the interior design world in their
Hmm.
website, and it's such a powerful move if you can, as a builder,
Hmm.
if you can have someone in your corner from the interior design perspective, because I mean, that's the beauty of the finished product. Those finishing touches make or break
Hmm.
a successful home and build. So those companies who have found ways to collaborate with someone in their region,
Hmm.
such a powerful move. I think everyone should. If you're a home builder, residential or a remodeler, extensions, all those sorts of things. I think
Hmm.
everyone should have someone like you as a partner to improve what they're doing. The end
Right.
product is a far better product when you do it that way.
I think it definitely improves the product, and it also depends upon the location. So I
Yeah.
am working with a general contractor who's based in a different state and building homes up in the mountains where I used to live. And there's a slight disconnect, which we're between design expectations and what clients are looking for. And so it's becoming a really fun learning experience and teaching, and also just elevating that final product with all those attention to details.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's so much easier if you're familiar with the region and the area,
Mhm.
um, and you can walk face to face even and go and see the space. Um, well, it's all important. It's been a fantastic conversation. I always like to ask, is there a question I missed that I should have asked you, and what would the answer be to that question?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. I've only had a chance
Yeah,
to
cool.
chat with you for about 15 or 20 minutes here. I think the biggest thing to bring to a project, either as a trade to the client or from the client to the trade, is to have a little bit of humor. Not like I'm making fun of you, but just humor. Like when you open up a wall, you're like, wow, we can't actually move that. Great, let's go back to the drawing board. Or really understanding what you're seeing, and again, not being having too much brevity, but just understanding what you're seeing and conveying that in such a way to the client. A quick story on that: I had a listing. I'm also a licensed real estate agent in Colorado, and I had a listing a couple years ago. They had a water main break in the lower level, and by the time I got there about 20 minutes later, the whole lower level was just destroyed and there was like water all over. We called the reconstruction crew, we got the water shop, we did all the normal things. And I'm talking with the client. I'm like, well, you really did want to upgrade the lower level before we sold it anyway, right? And he's like, shut up.
Yeah, you just gotta laugh at those circumstances, and it's totally outside of anyone's control. Things happen.
Mhm.
Just
Yeah.
gotta find a way through. Fantastic conversation. How do people find out, particularly obviously in your region, how do people find out more about what you're up to?
Absolutely. The easiest way is to go to my website, which is getyourhometoday.com. And then I'm on Facebook under my company name, which is EK Kitchens and Design. We're also working on some changes there. But literally just getyourhometoday.com. Super easy.
Yeah, love that domain name. So yeah, we'll put that in the show notes and your link as well to Facebook and
Thank
so on. So fantastic. Thanks so much, Erica. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Wes. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Built, Trusted, Chosen. Brought to you by Uplift 360. Visit uplift360.com.au.